Okay, so on this problem, we have a bunch of letters with different powers, and they want us to simplify it as much as possible. Well, what's the deal here? Well, the main rule we want to keep straight is that negative powers, write it up here, negative powers are unhappy, they're negative, they're unhappy, and so they jump to the other side of the fraction, then become positive, happy. So after they jump, then they're happy. So as I look at this question then, which ones are, so do that first. So before you do any like adding powers, subtracting powers, we'll do all that in a minute. But always first, take care of your unhappy people here, your negative powers. Always do those first. That'll be easiest. So that means I'm going to grab this m to the -6. He's unhappy. He's going down. Whereas the other m, the m to the 8th on the bottom, he's good. He's like, I'm happy in my job. I'm staying right here. So both of the m's are going to end up on the bottom, right? Now, what about the y's? Well, the y to the -3 is unhappy. So he's going up. So we're going to have both the y's are going to end up on the top because the y to the 5th staying where he's at. He's like, I'm happy up here. So we're going to have both y's. Now, what about the u's? They're both going to stay put where they're at for the moment. And in a second, we're going to subtract their powers because that top u is really u to the 1. The 9 on the bottom, 9 minus 1 is going to end up with 8 on the bottom in just a second. So let's rewrite what we've got. So what we've got then is we've got m to the +6 on the bottom, m to the 8. So both the m's end up on the bottom. The y's, we got y to the, or I'll scoot it over. Well, it doesn't really matter where it is. Y to the 5th and y to the +3. And then finally the u's, we got u over u to the 9th. Does that make sense so far? Does everybody see? So the negative powers are negative. Unhappy where they're at. They want to jump to the other side. Then they're positive and they're happy. Okay, now the next question becomes, what do you do with letters with powers that are side by side versus those that are vertical? I think you probably know. The side by side add, the vertical subtract. So in other words, these two are going to add because they're side by side. These two are going to add because they're side by side. And what about the u's? Well, remember, this is a u to the 1. Whenever a letter or number doesn't show its power, it's really a invisible 1 because there's one of them. And these two are going to subtract, right? So when they're vertical, they subtract. When they're side by side, they add. And when they subtract, how do you know where the answer is? Like top or bottom? How do we know? Wherever the bigger is, huh? Because that really means 9 u's. You know, if I was to write out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's a single, you'd have 1 on the top cancels 1 on the bottom, and we're left with 8 on the bottom. That's really what's happening when we subtract is cancellation. And since there's way more on the bottom, there's going to be way more left over on the bottom. So with all this, what's left then? So on the top, the y's add to be y to the 8, right? The 5 and the 3. On the bottom, the m's add 6 and 8, 14. You good there? And then the u's subtract, as we said, leaving u to the 8 on the bottom because 9 minus 1 is 8, and there's more on the bottom. And that's your final answer. Type it in just like that. There we go.